It is another week and a new day. Good morning and welcome to First News Bulletin right here on TV3. We come to you live from our studios at Desawe Kanda here in Accra, and we also come into you via TV3 at TV3 Ghana on Facebook. My name is Safwa Boahen. Now let's settle for the headlines. Executive Secretary at Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Duncan Amwa says Iran's threat to close the strategic Strait of Hormuz will impact on global crude oil prices. Also, Mpox cases rise 117 in Ghana as the health service intensifies awareness. And much later, President of the Western Regional House, Nana Kobinan Ketia V, calls for revamping of the Western Rail Line. We have details of this and more coming up shortly. Please stay with us. Many thanks for joining us this morning. Let's settle for the details now. And the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, says Iran's threat to close the strategic Strait of Hormuz will impact on global crude oil prices. Iran's decision follows the bombing by U.S. warplanes of 3 of the country's nuclear sites. Speaking to TV3, Duncan Amwa noted consumers in Ghana should prepare to feel the impact of the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict.
Iran has a lot of control as far as that Strait of Hormuz is concerned, and 20% of global oil supply or trade, 25% actually, going through that strait is awfully significant, and it could have a telling on prices. I wouldn't be surprised that even locally, your BDCs may take a cue and decide that, of course, now to bring cargo or to land cargo is going to take them such a huge effort, or will take them a lot of premiums to land cargo, and as such, prices will need to go up accordingly. I will not be surprised that even within the course of this week, we may end up feeling the impact here in Ghana. What the United States did yesterday was completely avoidable, and I think that it has made the world a lot messier than it was before that bombing was occasioned.
Meanwhile, security consultant Colonel Festus Abuaje, retired, has warned of catastrophic global fallout if tensions between Iran, Israel, and the United States escalate into direct conflict.
In the 2025 scenario report titled Red Ashes, Colonel Festus Abuaje outlines how an Israeli strike on Iranian nuclear sites could ignite a chain reaction of asymmetric warfare with devastating consequences. The scenario begins with a calculated Israeli attack meant to disable Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Instead of weakening Iran, the operation triggers a global asymmetric response ranging from radiological dirty bomb attacks to economic warfare and cyber sabotage. Colonel Festus Abuaje emphasizes that Iran may not need nuclear weapons to impose nuclear-level damage across borders. A key warning in the report is that targeting Iranian leadership, such as the supreme leader, could backfire. Rather than collapse, the Iranian regime might become more radical, with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps assuming control and launching unrestrained retaliation through proxy militias and sleeper cells worldwide. Colonel Abuaje's analysis introduces the concept of a sub-nuclear deterrence doctrine, that is the use of a non-nuclear but high-impact tools like radiological weapons to achieve strategic deterrence. He wants that this could normalize new forms of warfare outside established international law, undermining global security frameworks and risking the breakdown of alliances.
Let's still stay on the Israel-Iran issue, because Israel has launched fresh airstrikes targeting military infrastructure in western Iran's Kermanshah city, said the Israel Defense Forces IDF on Monday morning. And earlier, Iran's state affiliate Noor News reported that Israel had struck Persian a large military complex southeast of Tehran in a strike during the early hours on Monday. Iran launched its own strike on Israel on Monday, firing a missile that was intercepted by Israel's air defenses. Away from the conflict, 2 individuals are currently in police custody over suspicions of deliberately setting the official residence of the district chief executive for Efija Kwabre South in the Ashanti region on fire. The fire incident took place late Saturday night around 11 p.m. According to our sister station in Kumasi, Akoma FM, the residence was unoccupied at the time of the incident as the newly appointed DCE had not yet moved in. Police have launched an investigation into the cause of the inferno, and preliminary information suggests that authorities are exploring the possibility of arson, although this remains unconfirmed. The police are yet to release an official statement on the arrest. Further updates are expected as investigations continue. And we'll definitely be keeping an eye on these investigations to see how best and how far this has got into. But also the family of the victims of Saturday morning's building collapse at London's bridge in Cape Coast say the disaster has caused them immense trauma. Correspondent Thomas Khan visited 87-year-old Charlotte Blankson, one of the survivors, at the relative's house where she is seeking temporary shelter after losing her home to the heavy downpour.
Saturday, June 22nd, 2025, a dark day for Cape Coasters after 2 people lost their lives when a story building collapsed following several hours of heavy downpour. The historic house which collapsed once served as a home for family and their descendant for more than 2 centuries. Currently, survivors and family members affected by the disaster are seeking temporary shelter in the homes of friends and relatives. The news team visited 87-year-old Auntie Charlotte, one of the survivors. She is currently staying with a relative on Jackson Street, a suburb of Cape Coast. Auntie Charlotte told me she had lived in the collapsed house since childhood and expressed deep shock at the tragedy. She recounted how the building collapsed.
I could feel some parts of the building falling off, and one child also said she saw something similar. I told them the building was about to collapse, but they were optimistic. A moment after I left, I heard the building had collapsed.
She said the incident has traumatized the family with the loss of loved ones and property. Still, she is thankful to be among the survivors.
We've lost a lot, and it's very painful.
Another relative spoke about the emotional toll the disaster has taken on the family and appealed for support to help the other displaced victims.
All our things were destroyed. The few things that we could retrieve were also stolen by people who claimed to help us. If the assembly could help us, we will be very grateful.
Meanwhile, the news team gathered that a Cape Coast assembly has begun demolishing some dilapidated buildings in the city.
A condolence to all the victims of this disastrous catastrophe. But let's move away from that. In the acting Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Shippers Authority, Professor Ransford Ju, has responded to claims made by the Office of the Special Prosecutor regarding his alleged interference in a raid on some officers of Strategic Mobilization Limited, SML. Professor Ju, in a Facebook post made Sunday, June 22, clarified that he did not call the OSP's office as suggested in a statement released by the Special Prosecutor Kisi Jaben, but rather contacted Kisi Jaben directly. The OSP had earlier alleged that Professor Jampo had reached out to the office with calls and messages concerning SML while officers from the OSP and National Security were conducting a lawful search at the company's premises. According to the OSP, that or such information or communication risked interfering with an ongoing investigation. Now to the Western region, where the president of the Western Regional House of Chiefs and Paramount Chief of Esikedu traditional area, Nana Kobina Inketia V, is questioning the logic behind investing in the Bonkra inland port without first revamping the Western Rail Line. Meanwhile, the Western Regional Minister, Joseph Nelson, warns that the dilapidated Western Rail lines and challenges in developing rail infrastructure threaten not only the region's transportation network but also hinder community development.
Addressing stakeholders at the Western Regional Development Retreat at Esipon, Nana Kobina Nketia V fumed over the failed promises made by previous governments in developing the rail sector.
We had a meeting once, I don't want to mention the president's name. He says, Nana, I'm assuring you that every penny from the oil will be used to construct the railways. We don't know whatever happened to the money. In 10 years after this oil, what has happened to us? What has happened to the economy here? We have a port, and yet the city seems to be dying. And meanwhile, we are busy building a railway line to Boankra. What for? Who brought up that idea and why? Everyone in the inland ports, the water lake is there. Yeji and so on and so forth. Ketikrachi and so on. Why?
On his part, Western Regional Minister Joseph Nelson warned that the dilapidated Western rail lines and challenges in developing rail infrastructure threaten not only the region's transportation network, but also hinder community development and deprive residents' livelihoods.
The challenging Western rail lines and the general difficulty of developing the rail infrastructure is not only a threat to our road network, it also affects the development of communities along the Western rail line, stretching from Sekendi through Takwa to Huni Valley and depriving many people of their livelihoods. We need to restore the railway infrastructure. The Western rail lines, when revamped, could create employment opportunities, promote food security in communities along the rail lines through the transportation of foodstuff to the city of Sekendi Takrady.
The Western Regional Development Retreat is led by the Western Regional Coordinating Council with the participation of the Western Regional House of Chiefs, departmental heads and district coordinators across the region. It is dialoguing on probable solutions to help address the numerous developmental challenges facing the Western region. Irama Smith, TV3 News, Sekendi.
Let's do some health stories now. And the Ghana Health Service has recorded 10 new cases of Mpox. In its latest update, the service noted that the total number of confirmed Mpox cases as of 20th June 2025 now stands at 117. According to the Ghana Health Service, there have been no hospitalizations or deaths reported. The Ghana Health Service is urging Ghanaians to report any of the following signs and symptoms of health facilities to health facilities for prompt attention: fever, rash, and swollen lymph nodes. The service is also advising the public to avoid close contact and maintain proper hand hygiene. In response to the recent surge in cases, health officials are intensifying public education campaigns, community outreach, and surveillance efforts to contain the spread and ensure early detection. Let's bring you some more stories right here on TV3 New Day. And for more than 20 years, the people of Tutupe in the Ada East constituency have lived without access to safe and potable water. What should be a basic right has become a daily struggle for life, with regular cases of cholera, diarrhea, and skin infections. Christian Yale reports that scientists have tested samples of the water and declared it unsuitable for any use.
Totope is located in Ada East and some 3 hours drive from Accra. Survival here means fetching water from the belly of the earth and praying it does not make you sick. For over 2 decades, residents of Totope have been digging holes near the sea to collect water that seeps in, using it without any treatment. Doris Sewu is a mother of 4, spends most of her productive hours storing water to take care of her kids.
I have 4 kids. In the morning, I have to fetch water early to prepare the 2 elderly ones for school. In the afternoon, I leave the younger ones in the house with their grandma to fetch again for use in the evening. It becomes very difficult each day.
This is not just about health, but also a dignity issue. Doris exemplifies the life of women in this community who queue in the morning, afternoon and evening to fetch water.
I don't treat the water after fetching it. I only store it in the gallons for the debris to settle before I use for cooking and other domestic chores. Sometimes we fall sick, but we don't have a choice.
They are sometimes forced to buy sachet water for bathing, but that is a luxury for most. So they rely on what seeps out of the soil, unfiltered and untreated. The fishing community has 2 pipes, but the taps do not flow. Diseases like cholera, diarrhea, as well as skin infections have become common in Totope and neighboring towns.
He gave assurance that by the end of 2021...
The Member of Parliament for Ada, Comfort Doyo Kujo, upon a visit to her office, showed me letters, requests made and responses from state agencies in the past, which have all not yielded any result.
It's very pathetic seeing women digging holes to fetch water for their house choices. As a woman, I don't feel comfortable.
The first Deputy Majority Whip said the situation is a real trouble for her.
In the 8th Parliament, I raised a statement on the floor of Parliament. Government Assurance Committee in 2022 called them to come and answer questions whether the problems have been faced or not. They came out with a nice answer that they have faced the problem. This is it. So this 9th Parliament, I've been able to reach the Minister of Water, and the response that I've gotten there from the Minister of Works and Housing and Water Resources Office is very, very encouraging.
I took samples of the water to the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research for testing, and the results are troubling.
We had total coliform, which I have already mentioned as indicators. We had E. coli, which are pathogens. We have the staphylococcus, which all these parameters, it should be 0. There shouldn't be any bacteria to make it suitable for drinking. But this sample has E. coli and total coliform, which are above the recommended level.
The water from Totope does not meet the World Health Organization standards and even recommendations by the Ghana Standards Authority.
Per the results from this sample, it shows that the water is not suitable for drinking purposes without any treatment.
Mothers say the water is slowly killing them, yet they continue to fetch water from the same contaminated source.
This is what we go through daily. It causes waste and knee pains, which affects how we are able to prepare our children for school. We plead for help.
In the week ending 13th June, officials of the Community Water Sanitation Agency visited the town in the company of the MP and promised to ensure reliable and potable water supply in the area.
I can't say anything about it, being it tomorrow or a year to come that we'll be able to get water. But the only thing we can do is to push it hard and harder for the government to see that indeed we are in water crisis.
This is where I needed the government most. I needed the civil society most. I needed the ambassadors most, and needed the NGOs most.
For Totope and its environs, the Sustainable Development Goal 6 remains a mystery. Clean water and sanitation have eluded them. The community stands as a painful reminder of how some lives are lived far from the promises of progress. Residents here are not asking for luxury, just clean water to live and to grow. They still wait for water, for help, for change. Christian Yale, TV3 News, Totope, Ada East.
a very debilitating situation right there. We pray that intervention comes in and comes in quickly. But this is where we end the morning news right on TV3. Many thanks for joining us this morning. My name is Safwa Bwanye. New day continues right after the breather. Have a wonderful day.